Hi, everyone. My name is Nisrine Sarkis. I'm a graphic designer specialized in branding, and I am also an Arabic letterer. And I would like to talk to you today about my own personal journey with the Arabic script. I've named the talk The In-Betweens of Lettering because throughout my journey, I found lettering to be this common thread that binds my love for the Arabic script with my work as a graphic designer. And I would like to start with this timeline that I did to tell you a little bit about my journey. And so in the beginning, during my university years, we had no Arabic in the curriculum. We only had one calligraphy course, and it was a pure Arabic calligraphy course. It didn't like bridge between calligraphy and design or calligraphy and typography. And when I graduated from university, I joined a branding agency, and during my work at the agency, there was also very little Arabic clients or Arabic work available. But I always had this curiosity and this want to explore Arabic, to work with Arabic, to know more about the Arabic script. And so what I did is that I found the only way to do so was to have my own personal lettering projects. And so I started to do lettering work. At first, it was a very intuitive approach. I took some of the things that I've learned during the calligraphy course from university, but I looked a lot at the work of Latin lettering artists, trying to understand their process and how they work with lettering so that I can apply the same to Arabic. In 2013, I had a small exhibition in the agency where I worked for my lettering posters, and it had both Latin and Arabic lettering posters because I was still exploring both. My work with Arabic started to gradually grow from there until 2015 when I joined Type at Paris, the first edition of Type at Paris. I went there in the hope that I would be able to work on an Arabic typeface, but that didn't happen. And so what I did is that I worked on a Latin typeface based on my own calligraphy, and the thought that I would learn the process and then apply it to an Arabic typeface. But luckily enough, just 1 year after that, the first Arabic type design course happened in Beirut at AUB. And that was really the turning point for me, where my intuitive work started to become more concrete and more based on rules and based on calligraphic and typographic notions. And this is where my lettering work started to evolve. My branding work started to evolve as well because I was more confident and more able to take on Arabic projects. And so I would like to talk to you first a little bit about the typeface that I worked on during ATDB. And it's a text typeface based on Naskh with a rounded aesthetic. Basically, I decided to work on such a typeface because it came from a need. As a designer, I always had this need to work with rounded typefaces, but always found it lacking. And also, I thought about children's books, children's school books, and I always found the typefaces that they used in those books very dry and not so appealing to children. And so I wanted to do just that, have this text typeface that is friendly and rounded. And so I worked on Bulbul, which had these open counters, a low contrast, round movements in the strokes, as well as round endings. And this is what the typeface looks like in text. Bulbul is still a work in progress. I work on it on and off, depending on what other projects I have. I hope that I will be able to finish it soon. But what I really want to talk about is the two major things that I learned through that during my ATDB course. And the first one being the importance of understanding and respecting the calligraphic script. And since then, I've started to build my own library of references from the Arabic calligraphic works. Whenever I find beautiful Arabic calligraphy or even calligraphy instruction books, I save them, I look at them, I keep them as my references, and I always look at them whenever I'm starting to work on any new Arabic project. Another important thing was the type cooking exercises that we did during ATDB. And this really helped me understand how typographic notions apply to the calligraphic script. And during these exercises, we would play around with the weight of the letters, the contrast, choosing a fluid script or choosing a rigid script, and just basically any typographic parameter and how it can apply to the calligraphic script. And so this echoed a lot in my work as a lettering artist, because now I am finally able to understand the rules and know the rules and be more confident with what I'm doing and with my process. And so lettering became this midpoint between what I was learning in type design and what I was doing in branding. Between type design and lettering, obviously, it helped me draw better letters. And between lettering and branding, what happened is that the branding process started to seep into my lettering process. This is what my lettering work looked like before ATDB. So again, as I said, it was a very intuitive approach. I also relied greatly on the calligraphic brush in Illustrator to give me the contrast or the movement of the stroke that I needed. I didn't greatly understand the notions of how letters work in a system, how the weight travels through the letter, the contrast, etc. And this is what my lettering work looks like right now. And in terms of branding and lettering, I cannot bring myself to do lettering work just for the sake of drawing beautiful letters. I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just not something I can do because of my graphic design background. And I've noticed that the branding process that you can see here in blue seeps into my lettering work. And so the way that I do lettering is that I follow the same branding process. I start by researching the meaning of the sentence that I'm working on. I research the different calligraphic scripts, their inherited culture, their personalities. And then I move on to doing some type cooking explorations, which weight or contrast or proportions would work better for the meaning of my sentence, what composition works best, before I move on to refining the sketches, and then digitizing using a font software, and then exploring graphic effects like textures and filters and etc. So I will walk you through the process of some of my lettering posters. This one is called زهقت من الحيطان, which translates to the walls are bored of me. And I did this during COVID, and it's a sentence from a song by Feiruz. And I felt like it really embodied this feeling of isolation that all of us were feeling. And when I first started working on it, I explored some kufi because of how bold and rigid it is. And it echoed that same feeling, this burden that we felt throughout the lockdown. Also, tried to do some illustrative approach where I added like hands to the letters to make it look like they're hugging themselves because we felt so alone and isolated. Another approach was investigating perspective and how the letters could look like they are the wall that is bored. And also I thought about the feeling that comes from being in this isolation, and I felt like this feeling is, you feel like you're melting away, like time is melting away, like you don't know whether you exist or not anymore. And I decided finally to go with that. And so I worked on letters based on naskh, but with a very high contrast so that I could later on play with this melting feeling by melting the baseline stroke. And finally, I added this wall texture to give it much more also meaning, but also this like dark, heavy feeling. Another poster that I worked on was for a lettering exhibition called Jazz and Ink. This exhibition happened in Beirut, and it invited artists to letter song titles, jazz song titles, translated into Arabic. And the song that I got was Stolen Moments, which translates to لحظات مسروقة. And to me, stolen moments are these very brief, beautiful moments, like a stolen look or a cigarette break or a stolen kiss. And I tried to start with this illustrative approach to it at first, tried it as well with a more letters that are inspired from Latin jazz letters that you find in Latin posters, jazz posters, sorry. But then I decided to have the letters do the expression themselves. And I thought that removing the curves from the letters gave this feeling of these very brief moments, very like the saccading movement of stolen moments. So I worked with Nasikh, and I explored how Nasikh would look like if you removed any curves from it. I also tried to work with the composition to express the meaning, and how I could also show that there's this flow of time that is being interrupted by a very brief stolen moment. And ended up having a layout like this one. The one on the right is the final one, where you feel like there's this flow of time passing by, but there's in the middle this brief stolen moment. But this is not always how the process works for me. Sometimes intuition comes back again, and you know what you want to do from just one sketch. And in this case of this poster, for example, which says Hashishit Albi, and which translates to you make my heart feel high. And I knew that I wanted to have like a very fluid script, and the Persian script is one of the most fluid Arabic scripts. And so from this very quick sketch that I did, I was convinced that this is what I wanted to do because it resembles smoke. It gives you this high feeling. Another also example of a poster where I did not go through the regular process that I go through is this one that says Tiru Far'a Ya Bushar, which is the Arabic version of the popcorn song. And I did just a few explorations for the letters and how they would be able to express the shape of a popcorn kernel. And also sometimes coincidences happen that give out beautiful results. And in the case of this poster, which I was doing for a friend who's in love with the song by Ziad Rahmani called Hudu Nisbim, which translates into relative calm. And really it's about this relative calm that you go through sometimes, where you think things are calm, but really you don't know where anything might go wrong. And I started digitally on this one, and I wanted to do Ruqa letters with the blending tool on Illustrator. And as I was exploring that and trying to figure out the best way to do it with the blending tool, some of the curves just moved by mistake, and I thought that this is it. This is what relative calm is, because there's this regularity and the similarity and the flow of movement that gives you the illusion of calm, but you really don't know when things are going to just go wrong. And just like in my lettering work, ATDB doing the type design course helped me a lot in my commercial work as well. And basically what I found was that through my lettering work, I was able to fill the gap that exists in the current library of Arabic fonts. And it's true that we have a lot of Arabic fonts that are being published right now, but still in comparison to the Latin library of fonts, they're very, very little. And it's also a lot of text typefaces that are coming out and not enough display typefaces out there, which you would need in branding a lot. And so my lettering skills helped me fill that gap. It also helps me fight the notion that modern Arabic typography should be Latin inspired, because the Arabic visual identity world went through a phase where looking modern meant looking Latin inspired. And having these notions of respecting the calligraphic script and understanding how it can translate into typographic notions helped me fight this notion and also helped me do better bilingual matchmaking work. And so I will share with you some process behind some of the logos that I've created. And this is a logo for an Arabic metal band called Ard. And at first I was very curious when I took on this project, also very excited because I'm a metal fan. But I've never seen an Arabic metal logo before. And so I started researching very old calligraphic manuscripts and calligraphic work, specifically in the Kufi family. And what I found was that really Kufi had a very metal appeal to it. It looked very Gothic to me, especially with these thorny edges, pointy, and like it really had this very dark aspect to it. Similarly, the Sumbuli script as well, I started to look at it from that perspective. And so I worked on lettering logos inspired by these scripts and also inspired by the round shape of the earth. And this was the final logo that was approved by the band members. Another logo is for a Lebanese restaurant based in KSA called Ward. And here the process obviously is different because the inspiration is different. I looked into the old Beirut souks, the flower souks, the signs there, and the calligraphic signs that they had. And they used some Persian script, so they used some naskh as well. And so some of the logos were based on that, but also like this logo, for example, was inspired by the rose petal itself. And what I've tried to do is to have like the letters fit into the rose petal. And this is the final logo that was approved. This logo is for a jewelry brand based in KSA as well. It's called Zah. And the photo that you see here is the one that was shared with me by the client in terms of the target audience that was going to buy the jewelry that Zah had on display. So I went at first for something that was very edgy and very bold and very young. Like the first one is inspired by the crystallized shape of gemstones. The other one has high contrast, but also like has this stencil feel to give it more edge. And they were not approved by the client because they then decided they needed something a bit more elegant. And they had shared with me this image of their interior design, and they had these very long pillars where they would display the jewelry. And so I worked on logos where the Arabic had this very elongated feel instead. And that was the final approved one. And so as I mentioned at first, my lettering skills helped me a lot with creating bilingual identities as well. And I would like to point out here that it's very important to always preserve the identity of the Arabic script, and that I always try to do that and try not to copy the Latin as it is. I try to have like this common ground in terms of typographic parameters, like a weight or contrast or personality. I try to match these, but I do not try to copy the Latin. Each has to preserve its own identity. This was also a fun project to work on. It's the visual identity for the Abu Dhabi Music Festival. And this was interesting to me because I started working on Arabic, not thinking that they would need a Latin. It was not in the brief in the beginning that they would need its Latin equivalent. And so I don't always get the chance to work on identities that start with Arabic and then design their Latin counterpart. And for this project, what I wanted to work on was this idea of how the festival brings together artists from different backgrounds and different nationalities and even different industries, and brings them together as this intersection for where art happens. And so I wanted to work with letters specifically to express that through transparency, through having them intersect together. And I based myself on the Kufi, and then I did the same with the geometric Latin script or font. This project was for a Lebanese artist named Tariq El-Assouf, who's a sculptor. He works with marble, and he works with pure geometric forms, and most specifically the square. And I was working on the identity of his exhibition in Beirut and his didactic signage. And we decided to work on creating this lettering for the titles that was based on the square kufi and also have its Latin counterpart. And this project now is in the process of, this lettering is now in the process of becoming a typeface for the artist, because it really embodies the work that he does in terms of forms and proportions, and always following the square or the circle or the diagonals, or just always these very pure, perfect proportions. This one is a completely different project. It's an advertising campaign for Al Marai brand in KSA, and specifically for their milk products. And this campaign is very recent. They wanted to talk to children, basically, to target children and tell them. So the sentence says, "Sharb al-halib sir al-labib," which translates into drinking milk is the secret to being smart. And this is the final result of the slogan and how it was lettered. But in terms of process, we've worked on several directions in the beginning. The first being something inspired by milk and by this liquid aspect of it. The second one in the middle here being inspired by more vintage vernacular typography that you would find in signs on the road or in or vintage school books, posters, etc. And the last one being more inspired by graffiti, but in a childish way, because you know, the youth is very interested and attracted by graffiti work. But the client decided to go for the milk approach, and this was the final result of the lettering of the slogan. This campaign was I worked on it with Wonder 8. Sorry, I forgot to mention that this campaign I worked on it with Wunderman Thompson KSA. And this campaign I worked on with Wonder 8 branding agency, and this is for the Vision 2030 for KSA. So KSA has this vision for 2030, and the private sector in KSA wanted to encourage the people to be part of this vision through a slogan that says "Ana 2030," which means I am 2030. And so what we worked on is these different letterings of the word "Ana" or "I am," and so that the people could identify with these different "Anas" in terms of their age, their profession, their personalities, etc. And so, as a conclusion, I would just like to share with you a project that is very dear to my heart. And I say it is between now and tomorrow because I'm a mom, and I always try to encourage my child to read Arabic, to speak Arabic. And I find it hard when so many beautiful English or French books are out there to encourage him to read in Arabic. And so I took on the responsibility, if you want, I take on the responsibility to create work that would help this new generation love the Arabic letters and love the Arabic language. And this is an alphabet poster that I created. It's the alphabet of emotions. And as a mom, I understand how important it is for children to learn how to express their emotions, to find words for how they are feeling. And so I decided to create this, to design this alphabet where each letter represents a feeling. This is the final poster. So you have Anna in the middle, and then you have all of these feelings around the poster. And I wanted to finish with this project because I'm also an instructor, and I always tell my students that they are so lucky to be learning design and learning Arabic design specifically at this time, where it is witnessing such a big boom and such big developments in terms of having a lot of resources out there, like curated platforms, archives that they can look into. And as you can see in my journey, I did not have that. And I would like to finish with this because I would like just to say that this is a responsibility for us to keep developing this world and to help new generations preserve the Arabic language and preserve the Arabic script. And for me personally, one of my goals is to keep working on more projects that are children oriented, specifically to achieve this goal. Thank you so much.